Alright, so we're talking about these two boxes and the caged relationship between these two boxes. Alright? And then additionally, we've got the caged relationship between these boxes. What do you do from an E shape to make it into a half diminished? You can take the root and go to a 2 with it in this particular box. What can be done in this box, you may not be able to be done in this box. So if you have, and in the C boxes, of course, there's no sunken notes. But look, there we start to get sunken notes as we go down into the different shapes. Okay, so here's the whole little chart here. Up here we've got, you know, our fretboard. This is just our legend up here, right? This is the fretboard. This is how they actually stack up. But these are the boxes that were involved here. In the C box, this is everything. And here's our little pentatonic scale. Here's the fret nut capo. So this is everything in the C box. This is everything in the G box. Starts on G, okay? G, A, C, C, D, E, G. Okay, pentatonic. Caged is backwards. C, A, G, E, D. This is the D box, the everything. So these are again keys, legends. You know, we would check that if we got a little confused. You know, here we've got sunken notes back here, but this is the bona fide tripentatonic DGA box. DGA 145. Okay, here's the ADE box 145, 145. So that means A shape, D shape to E shape. Okay, so it's the true A box here with the capo on the E. These are the legends. These are things we've been talking about in the past year or two with these lessons. And then we have the E box, of course. It's got a little bit of scratchiness up here, but I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't have time to bump that up. Sometimes I'm working on the theory. I don't have time to touch up the paint, you know. So what's going on here? Alright, so this particular column is just reference. It's got everything. Anything that this has. Okay? What is our target is to be able to play the E-shaped. Now this would be an E-shaped 7, but if you look at our E shape here, it would be root 5 3 right there. Root 5 3. Root. We got rather 5 root 3 right down here. You hear it? 5 root 3 right here. Drop that root to a 7. Drop that 5 to a 4, and drop the 3 to this 2. And there's our second inversion. Half diminished 7th. Okay, but in that scheme, we have to adjust 3 notes. Okay, we have to adjust 3 notes in that scheme. Now notice, if we call that an E minor diminished, which is we simply play an E minor. Okay, so we're like on an E, go to an E minor, and then we drop the 5th again. You know, we have kind of like an out of mode adjustment there. Although if you can drop that 5 to the 4 without doing the minor in the middle, sounds like the monkey in the middle. You know, then you're safe. You just know this chord shape to play, right? There's a relationship between this G minor and this E shape. It's a caged relationship. There's G, Remember, this is cap lock. This is G minor and this is E. It's a caged relationship. Okay? So that's a very interesting caged relationship. Now, here's a really cool point. When we're playing, let's say in the C shape, go ahead one letter in cage to get its relative minor. Well, guess what we have here? We have a minor, but a half diminished is a double minor interval. So the relative minor of the minor goes ahead in one caged letter. That's why G goes to E here. I was a little confused. I was like, wait a minute, E goes to G, but G doesn't go. Yes, it does, because this G, talk about lowercase, this is diminished case. Okay, so it's going from a minor to a minor minor. So that it would follow the cage direction. So let's zoom out and let's learn how to make these things. There's two ways. There's the way that I was planning to teach it, which is just go to the second minor, then root goes to 7. Okay, that's so easy. Here's the second minor, root goes to 7. Okay, but root could also go to 2 if you can get the 7 on one of the open strings. Now notice here, if root goes to 2, we don't have our 7. Okay, so this particular root goes to 2 isn't really that accurate. But we have this 7 here in the shape, so we do have that. So this would be that's a legal thing. We wouldn't go to 2. You could go to 2 if you want to just mess around with it. So let's say we have this D minor shape here. If I'm not mistaken, this is it. So here's our E-shaped fourth right here. Root 4, 6. That's our E-shaped fourth. Same numbers. We're not assigning new roots here. We're working all in the master root chord, root key. So we got our E there. All right. And then just to get to that, we're going to get to this one here. Here's your cage relationship. We're simply going to go root to 7. So now it's like a new fingering. Okay, but we got the same top, which is like, so it gets a little complicated. How are you going to do that? Okay, the way we're going to do it is we're just going to switch the bottom 2 fingers. So here's our first E fourth right there. Then we're going to switch fingers for that and get our D minor 7th. Now we're going to take these bottom 2 fingers and just switch them. Okay, we're just going to switch those bottom 2 fingers like that. I did it before. You hear that diminished? So that's what happens when we drop that root to a 7. Thank you, Princess. My dog's really playing for a little attention there. Alright, so we dropped the 7. I had the fingering. Okay, it's actually one of these square, almost diminished looking fingerings. Okay, so that's the way to play that chord. So remember, this isn't a fingering class, but I will talk about fingering as much as I can because that helps you remember the chord. What we're talking about here is adjustments to make that chord. Now let's look at the adjustments to get that same chord with from the dominant 7th